Parinyatanti me bhikkhave kumbhai ananussutesu dhammesu.
Good evening, Dharma friends. Wish you the blessings of the Noble Triple Gem for a happy and peaceful evening. It is Saturday, August 5th, another beautiful evening. All of us to sit and study the Dhamma for our benefits and everyone else in our families and all the Dhamma friends we associate. Because when we study Dhamma, when we analyze the Dhamma, it brings us joy. And when we are joyful, that flows to others in the positive way for them to at least to get an impression about Dhamma. So that this session for studying Sutta is really good for all of us. With that welcome, I just want to begin the Sutta study today by paying our homage and respect to the Supreme Buddha by reciting Namo Tassa 3 times. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Homage to the Blessed One, the Worthy One, the Fully Enlightened One. Homage to the Blessed One, the Worthy One, the Fully Enlightened One. Homage to the Blessed One, the Worthy One, the Fully Enlightened One. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. I would also welcome those friends who joined from Sri Lanka. They have got off early to participate in this Sutta study class. So may they be able to clear their mind from all kinds of hindrances and attend to Sutta studies with pure mind to sharpen their mind with the Dhamma. Friends, as you got my early notification about the Sutta study class, I'm pretty sure that you are well aware of the discourse we take today for our discussion. It is Cula Vedalla Sutta, the Sutta number 44 in Majjhima Nikaya. Right after Mahavedalla Sutta, we have this Cula Vedalla Sutta. So this Sutta, by its title, it's called Cula Vedalla, the shorter discourse on question and answers. So it is another important discourse with regard to the Dhamma we find in the discourse. Before we go on to number of Dhamma facts, the Sutta discourse, we would spend some time to understand the background of the Sutta. I do not want to explain why this Sutta is called Vedalla, because we discussed it last couple of weeks. Simply it is question and answer. Wherever and whenever you get this word Vedalla, it means one asks questions and the other answers to those questions. And we can find such suttas in the Tripitaka, in each Nikaya, so that they, even if you don't find this particular word Vedalla, they could be included into that category because it has or they have question and answers. So the main characters of this discourse is Bhikkhuni Dhammadinna and Upasaka Visakha, layman Visakha. So when we go to the background of the sutta, we know that from the commentary that Dhammadinna, Bhikkhuni and layman Visakha are former husband and wife. It is said in the commentary that Visakha used to go to the monastery to listen to the Dhamma from the Buddha and other venerable monks who delivered the Dhamma when the Buddha was absent. So one day, layman Visakha came home with changed attitudes. He was unable to adhere to those usual attitudes on that day, and Dhammadinna, being the wife of layman Visakha, noticed this strange behavior. He was not as he had been, so that in my opinion, if I imagine that situation as a drama, Dhammadinna asked questions at the last couple of minutes of the day. Why are you having this strange behavior? You are not like yourself. To me, you are different. What happened today? What is the situation? What is the reason for this? Silent. Silence in you. You are not talking to anyone at home. You are staying in the room, and so on. Then layman Visakha didn't tell something very much, but he told Dhammadinna, his wife, something like this. I feel something strange, and I don't feel any delightness on anything in this house anymore. Could you please take the responsibilities of major tasks at home, including whatever businesses they have been doing with people? And simply, I don't feel you as my wife anymore, but I more towards I'm more towards considering you as my sister. So hereafter, let's have that relationship. I don't feel that feeling to consider you as my wife. So that is a very strong statement from a husband who had been for a long time as husband. So how about if you say to your wife that I don't feel you as my wife anymore, or I don't feel you as my husband anymore, so consider me as your brother or sister. It's a very strange and a remarkable statement. So layman Visakha said that. Then Dhammadinna didn't question after that. She was a wise woman, and she thinks that this happened today, right after the visit to the monastery. Maybe he got something out of this sermon. Maybe some transformation had happened to him during the sermon, because Dhammadinna was a follower of the Buddha. So then Dhammadinna also actually took the advantage from this conversation. She said that, can I go to the monastery and listen to the Dhamma? Can I be a nun, bhikkhuni? Then Visakha said, because there is a reason for her to tell that. Visakha told Dhammadinna that I consider you as my sister. This is the very reason I think Dhammadinna got into her consideration to tell that I like to be a bhikkhuni. So according to the commentary, then layman Visakha took her to the monastery, not the monastery where bhikkhus lived, but a nunnery, I mean the place where bhikkhunis lived, with a procession, with respect, and gave her to the sasana. So bhikkhuni, the Dhammadinna became a bhikkhuni after her novice ordination immediately. And after some time, layman Visakha found Dhammadinna at a certain point and had a discussion. Layman Visakha wanted to check Dhammadinna's strength on the Dhamma. Now she has been a bhikkhuni for several months, and he wanted to check. He wanted to observe. He wanted to know what exactly Bhikkhuni Dhammadina, his former wife, had been doing in her Bhikkhuni life with the Dhamma. So then they started a conversation, and that conversation, in other words, question and answers, are recorded in Cula Vedalla Sutta. The part that I related to you as a story is not in the discourse, it is coming from the commentary. So according to the story and what we can think based on the story, Visakha got into non-return position while he was listening to the Dhamma from the Buddha. On that day, that's why he was telling such a statement that I don't feel you as my wife anymore. I don't want to engage with any relationship with you as husband and wife, because that instinct have been gone from layman Visakha's mind. When you attain to anagami state, you don't have kama, raga, and patigha along with the other three fetters, so that's a clear separation from kama loka. You are totally away from karma experiences hereafter, so that you can see a very distinct from Visakha or anybody who has attained to that state. So that's why he told such a statement. And now, being a anagami, he wants to check Bhikkhuni Dhammadina of her practice, Dhamma practice. We can see that there is no indication for Visakha any clue of what state Dhammadina actually stays at that time. So but anyway, when the Visakha confirm it from the Buddha, and he could knew that Bhikkhuni Dhammadina attained to arhatship within a short period of time. So let's get into the discussion. Before I move on to the discussion, I just want to say another thing about the discourse. Like Mahavedalla Sutta, this is a very direct, very profound questions and also answers, and we can see that how enlightened being discuss the Dharma or any fact. So there is a discipline in it, and they need to bring the Dhamma out from their conversation, and that benefits by everybody who reads or who listen to. And there are number of questions related to various important factors, including Sakkaya Ditthi, Upadana, and also other important things like Noble Eightfold Path and Sankhara, then Samadhi. Actually, then we can see the discussion about the attainment to the cessation of perception and feeling, where it also is there. We also have discussion on Vedana, which is very important. I found this sutta is really significant with regard to the way the feeling section is discussed. And then latent tendencies, what we call anusaya, there is a discussion about that as well. Then later part of the sutta, we can find some counterparts, opposite and counterparts. Then that's the end of the discourse. So this is an interesting discourse by many means. So let's go on to the sutta reading now. I'm getting my discourse. Okay, here it is. Thus I have heard, at one time the Buddha was dwelling in the squirrels feeding ground in the bamboo grove near Rajagaha. The Buddha was in Rajagaha. Even today you found that place, bamboo grove, Veluvanarame, over there. So the Buddha was at that place when the layman Visaka approached the nun Dhammadinna, having gone up to her, saluted her, and sat down at one side. Sitting thus at one side, the layman Visaka said this to the nun Dhammadinna. So we found Visaka, the same letters, but the emphasis on the last syllable is different. So when you use the name Visa, just Visaka for lay person, you have to pronounce in that way, Visaka. But this name is famous when it is used for that lady, Visaka, who actually became the foremost of lay woman who built Migaramatu Prasad. But remember that there is a person called Visaka, and it is he was a non-returner, and that is what we are talking about right now. So Dhammadinna, there is a indication in the Tripitaka. I can remember the particular sutta, but Dhammadinna is also a male name, Dhammadinna. There was a Brahmin called by that name, but here we have to say Dhammadinna. So by meaning the one who gives the Dhamma to others. So then the question asked, because his mind was having this, his mind is having this idea that I should question Dhammadinna Bhikkhuni now, his former wife, about the about her monk's Bhikkhuni life. This would be the very reason to have this conversation for Visaka. The question is about self-identity, Sakkaya-ditthi. I like the Pali version very much. This is Pali version. Sakkayo sakkayoti ayye uchchati katamo nukko ayye sakkayo utto bhagavatati. The Pali word for bante or something similar is for women is ayye or ayya. So it is used here, but in English translation, lady is not a good word for good translation for it. Lady is being used in a common sense, but I do not know any synonym in English for a better synonym for that. Anyway, in Pali it is a perfect one, ayye, with respect. Sakkayo, the self of what is self-identity? What is self-identity? The question is about self-identity. A very interesting part is added there. Ayye, self-identity. What is it? What now is this self-identity as spoken by the Buddha? I do not want your own statement, your own projection, assumption on that. The question simply says, I just want to know what exactly Buddha said about it. That is very important. We may have a kind of idea about it, but first and foremost, let us know what the Buddha said. Tell me what the Buddha said about self-identity. So if you know, in other words, it becomes your own idea because of your understanding about it. So if you know what the Buddha said, and when you deliver it, you actually you believe, you accept it, and it is the same thing you think about. So that first and foremost, Visaka was asking what is self-identity according to the Buddha's instruction. Also, the very word usually monks and nuns use for somebody in similar status, also Visaka. It is these 5 aggregate of clinging that the Buddhas speak of as being self-identity. That is to say, actually, I think we last week during our question and answer period we said that Sakkaya-ditthi is the belief, there is I, me, and myself. The same thing is said here. Sakkaya Ditthi is explained as the clinging or the view about five aggregates of five aggregates. So the aggregate of clinging, that is form, Rupadana-khanda, aggregate of clinging, that is feeling, aggregate of perception as an aggregate, and then the khankara of formation as an aggregate and clinging to it, and the aggregate of clinging, that is consciousness. So attachment to form, feeling, perception, mental formation, and consciousness is considered here, and the belief that self is with the five aggregates of clinging. If I make you complicated, sorry about it. Let me explain you in a simple term. Now we have five aggregates and attachment to five aggregates. So we believe that there is a self in these five aggregates of clinging, and it is explained later in four ways, and with regard to one aggregates, and for 520 ways. So that's how Sakkaya Ditthi is being built. Let me read the later part of the sutta right after this statement. These also Visakha are the five aggregates of clinging that the Buddha speak of as being self-identity. Yes, sadhu. Aye, the layman Visakha joyfully approved of the Bhikkhuni Dhammadinna's word and then asked another question. They are all related. That is about, the second question is about the arising of Sakkaya Ditthi. The arising of self-identity is discussed in the teaching. What is this arising of self-identity as spoken by the Buddha? Also Visakha, it is this craving that leads to renewed existence, accompanied by pleasure and lust, seeking pleasure here and there. That is to say, kama tanha, bhava tanha, vibhava tanha, craving for sensual pleasures, craving for existence, and craving for non-existence. Also, this is the arising of self-identity. So see, the arising of self-identity or Sakkaya Ditthi takes place when tanha arises with three ways: kama tanha, bhava tanha, vibhava tanha. That means the second noble truth of the four noble truth talks about the arising of self-identity, and we can easily think that the first noble truth is about the Sakkaya Ditthi. You may be thinking now, yes, take your time to think about it. So when you read the whole entire section, you can understand that the way Bhikkhuni Dhammadinna explained the Dhamma related to Sakkaya Ditthi is based on the Four Noble Truth formula. First, the question is asked about the Sakkaya Ditthi, and Sakkaya Ditthi is the attachment, belief, self-identity of accepting I on five aggregates of clinging. And then the reason is explained right after that. The discussion is about the ending of Sakkaya Ditthi, ending of self-identity. So this is the question. The ending of self-identity is discussed in the Dhamma, and what is the ending of the self-identity as spoken by the Buddha. Also Visakha, it is the utter fading away and ending of that very craving, giving it up, letting it go, being free from it, being detached from it. This is the ending of self-identity. So the very Dhamma we find in the third noble truth is being discussed as the answer to the ending of Sakkaya Ditthi. The path leading to the ending of Sakkaya Ditthi or self-identity is talk about after that, based on the question Visakha asked. This is the question: what is the path leading to the ending of self-identity as spoken by the Buddha? Also, Visakha, it is this very noble eightfold path that is spoken by the Buddha as being the path leading to the end of self-identity. As you know, starting with right view, ending with right samadhi. That is the noble eightfold path, and that is the very path one should practice to end Sakkaya Ditthi. So this discussion is very clear, and based on Buddha's instruction, the answers were given, and the questions are also very deep and profound. And we can see that perhaps you feel that they are simple questions and simple answers because there are no hair splitting arguments on each question and answers given. But when you are with the Dhamma, when you really feel the Dhamma, you don't want to have those contradictory discussion and controversial points, and you have no any idea to win over on anyone, because you have no self-identity when you discuss the Dhamma. So if you want to discuss the Dhamma without self-identity, you are looking for Dhamma to please you, to calm down you, right? So once again, the structure of the first question is about the Four Noble Truth formula. So it is really interesting for me personally that the Four Noble Truth formula is being used here. Sakkaya Ditthi is nothing but suffering. Of course, yes, when you have Sakkaya Ditthi in your mind, you are working with greed, hatred, and ignorance. As a result, you experience suffering, you experience stress, tension. Your mind is always into irritation. Anger might arise always because you yourself centered on the view I, me, and myself. Ditti is originated in mind and it is working to govern you. So that suffering is being really talked with the Sakkaya Ditthi. So technically, form aggregates with clinging, feeling with clinging, perception with clinging, mental formation or sankhara with clinging, and consciousness or vijnana with clinging. So when you have either one or few or all five, you always stand on I'm so and so. It's me, nobody else. So that idea is always inclined or attached to the clinging. So when we talk about upadana, actually it is also being discussed here as a subordinate, and in one sense it is subordinated. On the other, it could be discussed as a separate one. So upadana, ditti upadana, we talk about ditti upadana, the attachment to views. Here, attachment to self-view, attachment to sakkaya ditti. So then we have kamupadana. Then we have attavadupadana, silabhatupadana. So we talk about 4 kinds of upadana. So dittyupadana is really directed to this one, along with the attavadupadana and so forth. So in order for anybody to end sakkaya ditti, the path is being very clear here. That is the Noble Eightfold Path. So the Noble Eightfold Path in the commentary is explained with the teaching of Mahachattari Sutta, and also in this discourse very much, so that it is a very profound and very analytical explanation here. So I just want to go on to other aspect of the discourse quickly, so that we can have a discussion. Now, right after Sakkaya Ditthi, the very next thing Visaka wanted to check with Dhammadinna is clinging, upadana. Now, now is that clinging the same as these 5 aggregate of clinging, or is it other than these 5 aggregate of clinging? It is good for somebody who has not listened to the 5 aggregate of clinging, whole teaching of 5 aggregate of clinging, because the separation from aggregates from clinging should be understood. That clinging also Visaka is neither the same as these 5 aggregate of clinging, nor is it other than these 5 aggregate of clinging. Also Visaka, it is the desire or lust, nandiraga, is the 5 aggregate of clinging that are the clinging there. So when we talk about the 5 aggregates and 5 aggregate of clinging, we can see an additions to these 5 aggregate to make it clinging aggregate. In other words, Panchakanda is different from Pancha Upadana Kanda. Panchakanda is going to be Pancha Upadana Kanda when Nandi Raga are arisen in one's mind related to Panchakanda. For example, suppose one meditates, one cultivates his or her mind into a super state where there is no new craving is arisen, so that his mind is pure. For example, let's say he's in the jhanic experiences. He's in a state where no any hindrances is being active, so that it would be a kind of momentary place for no new craving, no new tanha or upadana is arisen in over there. So that at that moment he is having panchakanda only. He has he has form, feeling, perception, mental formation, and consciousness. So that whenever he gets upakilesa, the things coming from outside to his mind, now he is actually having nandiraga for rupa, form, then sounds and taste, smell, and so forth, so that his panchakanda or the aggregate, maya aggregate are going to turn to 5 aggregates of clinging, because nandiraga are arising for those form, sounds, taste, smell, touch, and thinking. So that the statement from Dhammadinna is very clear that lust and desire, or desire and lust, nandiraga, is the difference here. Where when we talk about between five aggregates and 5 aggregates of clinging, attachment or clinging or upadana is because of the nandiraga. So that is being cleared here in the discussion. Again, we can see the discussion goes on self-identity view, Sakkaya Ditti, rising of self-identity view. Earlier, we discussed about the Sakkaya. So, Sakkaya, what is the Sakkaya means? Self-identity. It is about the 5 aggregates. Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankara, Vijnana. Now we talk about the view about it. How does self-identity arises, come about? Here also Visaka, and uninstructed ordinary person, Putujjana, is not a follower of the noble ones or Sappurisa. He doesn't know about, or he or she doesn't know about the Vinaya section or Dhamma section of the Buddha or the noble one or Sappurisa. He is not well versed on anything about it. That is the nature of uninstructed ordinary person. You find this phrase run of the mill person in Bhikkhu Thanisaro's translation. So basically, the one who doesn't know anything about the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. He doesn't know about those things, so that he is very layman. He may be having some good qualities, but we cannot consider him entering into the order by any means. So this person, because of his nature, considers form as self, and the self as possessing form, and form as in the self, and the self as in form. Due to not knowing anything about the Buddha or any Sangha or any Dhamma, due to not knowing about anything such things, he considers self is as form, and form as self. And as you listen to the very statement, so basically he created the Sakkaya Ditthi view on Sakkaya Ditthi view in 4 ways. In other words, with regard to Rupa, he developed Sakkaya Ditthi in 4 ways. That is very strong then, because you do not know anything about it, so that naturally you develop this idea, oh, it's mine, oh, I am part of it, or something like that. So let me read this part again. Form as the self. In Hindu tradition, in Brahmanism, self is Atman. It is a kind of living entity created by a super powerful God, and it goes from this life to next life. Some people, some sectors of the religion at that time said, oh no, it's done after this, and so on. Anyway, they always based on self or Atman. But the Buddha denied it by this kind of teaching about the senses, teaching about the aggregate, teaching about the relationship between mind and body, teaching about, based on Paticamuppada, the Buddha was able to show that there is nothing like you talk about. There are only matters, there are only mental state that change from moment to moment. So here, when you see how Sakkaya Ditthi view is broken down, and how the Buddha, here not the Buddha, Bhikkhuni Dhammadina, but originally it was explained by the Buddha. How with the Buddha and Bhikkhuni Dhammadina taught about Sakkaya Ditthi and it is arising, so we can see that there is no self itself. So form as the self as possessing form, and form as in the self, and the self as in the form. So with regard to form, Rupa, Sakkaya Ditthi is being developed in such 4 ways. And with regard to feeling, the same structure, feelings as the self, or the self as possessing feeling, or the feeling as in the self, or the self as in the feeling. With regard to perception, same style, Sankara formation, the same style, and Vijnana consciousness, the same style. So it's very academic sometimes. When you read this way of Sakkaya Ditthi arising, you don't feel joy at all, because it's a kind of mathematic formula, and there is a hard time for us to connect it with our own thinking. But I simply say this, that whenever we see something, for example, let's say a chair, there is a particular person to see it. It means chair. And so when you see the chair, it means that manifestation of you here is happening. So suppose you see your daughter, suppose you see your dog, or a car. Oh, it's my car. Immediately that idea come to your mind. So to say that it's my car, you should be here. So existence of you and accepting you as a person should be happening in the first place to say that it is my car. Oh, it's my hat over there. You are looking for the hat in the middle of the crowd and you see it in a distant place. Oh, it's my hat. To say that it's my hat, before that you have to accept I exist here. And when there is the acceptance of I or the view I, you can say that it's my hat. So it's very subtle, but try to understand this four type of, it's kind of formula. Form as the self as possessing form, and form as in the self, and the self as in the form. So this formula may be very academic, very technical, but when we, get into the point, this is how it happened according to my understanding. Maybe there are other views, other very important way of looking at from our friends. So when you see something, you put it's mine, or it belongs to me, it belongs to us, or it's my house, it's my daughter. That to say that you quickly and suddenly accepted the idea that I here. When you say this, you may argue that even Sotapanna might say this, even the Buddha say this, even Arahants use I, me, and myself. Those words are being used by those great disciples, even the Buddha. They say it without attachment. Just, but even the Sotapanna might say, it is this is my husband, this is my wife, this is my child. But they don't have that wrong view. Strong attachment to ditti is not there for them. But for people below that, might have that attachment, creating more on the same thing with the statement, oh, it's my car, it's my daughter, that's my hat, and so forth. That is a bit tricky part, I think. Now Layman Visak and Bhikkhuni Dhammadina are talking about non-arising of self-view. So you now know, we all know now, how Sakkaya Ditthi view is arising. When you and me or anybody considers, I, me and myself, Tanha Mana Ditti, on anything we see, on anything we grasp, particularly Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankara, that is how Sakkaya Ditthi arises. Right? Okay, now non-arising or not arising of Sakkaya Ditthi happen in such a way, you do not consider form as self, and the self as possessing, and you are not considering them. So you are breaking down the 20 kinds of Sakkaya Ditthi then and there with regard to 5 aggregates, so that you don't create clinging or attachment or upadana to with that view, because the way you look at every sensory experiences is not based on I, me, and myself. It could be done. How do we do that? Let's see whether the sutta discussed that. Right after this, the Bhikkhuni Dhammadina and the Layman Visakha talks about the Noble Eightfold Path as the path to let go of Sakkaya Ditthi. But simply, how do we, which way we need to think about to let go of Sakkaya Ditthi? Very best thing is to see the impermanence on form, feeling, perception, mental formation, and consciousness. When you see the impermanence on these aggregates, self-view is broken, is shattered, so that the noble truth of suffering, dukkha lakkana, is also visible, and there you see there is no self in that. In that means form, feeling, perception, mental formation, and consciousness. Basically, breaking down Sakkaya Ditthi view is quite similar to then to attain to Sotapanna, because you don't have that idea, I, me, and myself as a view. But you may enjoy sensual pleasures. because Kamaraga and Patiga are still there as Sangyojana in you, so that you enjoy, but in a crucial state, you can check it. You don't have that view, I, me, and myself at all. So we go on the discussion as the Sutta says. The next question is, what is the path to end self-identity view? It is this noble eightfold path: right view, right thought, right speech, action, livelihood, effort, mindfulness, and samadhi. So this noble eightfold path, very important question right after that. Is this noble eightfold path conditional or unconditioned? Or conditional or unconditional? In other words, is it Sankata or Asankata? The noble eightfold path. The noble eightfold path, also Visakha, is conditioned. It is Sankata. It is being created in our mind. Whatever is being created with intention in our mind or unintentionally, they have that has the nature of ending. So what is rising is subject to ceasing. What is created could be destroyed, could be ended. So that noble eightfold path is being developed in our mind so that it is Sankata. It is not Asankata. Asankata is only the Nirvana. What is the noble eightfold path is given after it's been practiced, it is called Asankata Nirvana. Now, are the three aggregate? No, the next question about the noble eightfold path is also very significant. Now, are the three aggregates included in the noble eightfold path, or is the noble eightfold path included in the three aggregates? What are these three aggregates? So we are familiar with the 5 aggregates and 5 aggregates of clinging. What are these 3 aggregates? So the Pali word for aggregate is Khanda, right? Khanda, the huge collection of various things is called Khanda. If you take the mountain as an example, it's a lot of stones and soil and sand and various other things. It's a huge collection. Likewise, Rupa is skandha because it is being explained in 11 ways. Atita, Anagata, Vartamana, and then Olarika, Sukuma, and so on. It goes on to 11 categories. So feeling, perception, mental formation, and then consciousness are also like that. So when we talk about 3 types of aggregate, it's been Sila Khanda, Samadhi Khanda, and Panya Khanda. So you don't find many suttas like this, that the Noble Eightfold, the relationship of Noble Eightfold path between the Noble Eightfold path and also Sila Khanda, Samadhi Khanda, and Panya Khanda. Only handful of suttas are there in the Tripitaka that explain the Noble Eightfold path in this way. So the question is about whether the 3 aggregates, Silakhanda, Samadhikhanda, and Panyakhanda, are under the Noble Eightfold Path, or the Noble Eightfold Path is under these 3. The answer is 3 aggregates, also Visakha, are not included in the Noble Eightfold Path. So then the Noble Eightfold Path is included in the 3 aggregates, which means that the 3 aggregates are the bigger concept. In other words, Silakhanda, Samadhikhanda, and Panyakhanda, technically and traditionally it's called 3 Siksha. So you have to train your mind on these 3. That's why it's called 3 Sikka. So they are the bigger concept. They are the foundation for Noble Eightfold Path. Noble Eightfold Path are being developed on these 3. So moral virtue, as said, aggregate of moral virtue, aggregate of samadhi, and aggregate of wisdom. So far we have brought up three main categories in the discussion. Before we move forward to Samadhi section, okay, we can say that as well related to this one, Samadhi. Now, what is mental cultivation? When we talk about the word towards mental cultivation, is technically talking about the development of Samadhi, because mind could be developed with wisdom as well, but basically it means the development of Samadhi. What are the objects of mental cultivation? What are the requisites of mental cultivation? What are the cultivation of Samadhi? These questions are there together. Asking all these questions together help Bhikkhuni Dhammadina answer quickly and straightforward. Also, Visaka, the one-pointedness of mind, chittas ekaggata, is the Samadhi. So Samadhi is being explained very clearly as chittas ekaggata, chitta ekaggata. So when we talk about the first jhana, second jhana, third jhana, and fourth jhana, they are talking about the different stages of chitta ekaggata. So basically, Samadhi means you put your mind into ekaggata. So your mind doesn't go anywhere, but stay with here right now. Basically, the body and mind are united together with the Samadhi. So the question is, what is mental cultivation and what is Samadhi? And Samadhi is the one-pointedness of mind, chitta ekaggata. It's called mental stillness as well. So the what are the objects of mental cultivation? What are the objects of Samadhi? It has been very clear here. The four foundation of mindfulness, Satipatthana, is the object of Samadhi. So in order to develop Samadhi, we have to stick to four foundation of mindfulness. When we talk about four foundation of mindfulness, it's about the for Satipatthana. In the Satipatthana, every aspect of meditation are being taught. If you take a Samatha technique, if you take a Vipassana, they are all included in the four foundation of mindfulness. So what are the requisites of Samadhi? The requisites of Samadhi, I missed one part. With regard to Satipatthana, these are the mental signs or nimitta for Samadhi. So four foundation of mindfulness is the objects of Samadhi. In other words, they are the nimitta for Samadhi. And the four right efforts, Sammapadana, these are the requisites of Samadhi. So without right effort, fourfold right effort, you cannot even think about starting off for Samadhi. Samadhi, now it has been very clear. According to, as I remember, Maha Sakuludai Sutta, Sangvara, Prahana, Bhavana, Anurakkana, with these four terms, the Buddha talk about the four right effort. One has to have the skills on Sangvara, Prahana, Bhavana, Anurakkana to practice the four foundation of mindfulness as the object or nimitta for Samadhi. So the prerequisite of Samadhi is nothing but the fourfold Sangvara or fourfold right effort. And finally, what is the cultivation of Samadhi? These states that are much cultivated, associated with this is here the cultivation of Samadhi. So cultivation of Samadhi means having all the things that we discussed. We have to understand what Samadhi is and focuses of Samadhi, nimitta and prerequisite. When we have those things, we will have cultivation of Samadhi. So I think it's better for me to stop from here in the Sutta to discuss the Dhamma right now. We have been talking about Sakkaya without Ditti. Then we talk about the Sakkaya Ditti, rising of Sakkaya Ditti based on the Four Noble Truth formula. there we discuss also clinging upadana and the relatedness of clinging to Sakkaya Ditthi. And then we talk about the Noble Eightfold Path in a different way, and also Samma Samadhi. So we move on to discussion now. As usual, I see Dr. Pial has raised his hand. Take your time, please.
Bante, thank you for the Dhamma discussion. It's a nice, very good, excellent sutta. Interestingly, I found this Dhammadina is a kind of a ordained nun, right? Bhikkhuni. And also the Visakha is a layperson, I mean, former husband and wife. So they must be meeting after a while, maybe.
Long time.
Yeah. So, I mean, first thing he wants to know whether is she a Sotapanna. So that's why
she's an Arahant, actually.
Yeah. So
by the time this discussion takes place,
yeah,
with Visakha,
but he doesn't. Does he know
the Dhammadinna or Visakha?
Visakha.
No, he doesn't know.
Yeah, that's why he wants to start from the beginning. First of all.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
That's why
you're right. It's a very interesting point. Yeah, he wanted to check whether at least Dhammadinna attained to Sotapanna state.
Yeah, so at least from the beginning, that's why the discussion starts right away from Sakkaya Ditthi. I mean, could be any other topic. So I thought then he takes on to what Sakkaya Ditthi means and how Sakkaya Ditthi is created, like with the craving and so forth, and Sankitena Panchupasana Dukkha. So at the first noble truth in this pinching me from the side.
Because it's going on.
I see. Now I see why she's there.
Yeah, she's there. So I guess nudging me. So I guess she says, "Stop! Enough! So therefore, I believe so. It's kind of interesting how it's all started. But my question I have is a little bit deeper down the road, like about the three aggregates as Sila, Samadhi, Prajna. Sila, Samadhi, Prajna now is a bigger concept than Eightfold Path. So, I mean, when people talk about Eightfold Path, they try to subdivide Eightfold Path into Sila, Samadhi, Prajna. I guess based on this sutra is try to subdivide. Then it becomes Samadhi as Prajna, Sila, Samadhi, because the first two Samadhi, Samma Sankappa, they term as Prajna, but I don't think any of the sutras talk about Prajna. I think this is probably in the commentary. I haven't seen sutras saying this is Prajna, because Buddha always has a way of Anupubba Dhamma, Anupubba Sikha, Patipada. So it has to be Sila, Samadhi, Prajna. So Sila, Samadhi, Prajna is a bigger concept. So I believe Samadhi, Samma Sankappa is part of Sila, mental Sila, because the Samma Sankappa is how you kind of train your thought. Samadhi is like akusala, the three akusala mula. So it is that the mental Sila, and then Vachi Sila, that is Samma Vacha, and of course the bodily Sila. So Sila, Samadhi, then the Prajna. What happens to Prajna? Prajna is Samma Jnana, Samma Vimukti. So that is the tenfold path is completed. So Sila, Samadhi, and Prajna. Prajna part comes at the bottom. So that's in the right order then. So the Prajna could be Samma Jnana, Samma Vimukti. Samadhi and Sila is a mental Sila, Vachi Sila, and bodily Sila. Otherwise, the mental Sila is missing. Because as you said, Sila, Samadhi, Prajna is a wider concept, because in this question and answer, it says Eightfold Path can be put into Sila, Samadhi, Prajna, but Sila, Samadhi, Prajna cannot be put into Eightfold Path. So it's kind of give us a hint there.
Yeah.
What do you think of that idea?
Yeah, that's very interesting. Yeah, I agree with all of those points you discussed. There is no doubt about that, this way of explanation is found. I think the Mahachattarisukut, I recommend to read everyone Mahachattarīsaka Sutta for a number of time to understand the structure of the Noble Eightfold Path clearly. And it says that Samadhi Pubbangama, Samadhitti Pubbangama, when you practice Sila section, you have to have some sense of intelligence and wisdom, I would say. Samadhi should be there. In other words, Yoniso Manasika. Otherwise, Sila is not going to be like in the Noble Eightfold Path. So that part of Panya, I use that word just to clear the point. Part of Panya always should be there for Sila to make the Sila Dhamma centered, so that, as you said, when that part of Panya come to Sila section and Samadhi section, as you said, Samma Jnana, Samma Vimukti, that is the very distinct part of Panya, Samma Jnana and Samma Vimukti. So, and other thing is, they are intertwined. Venerable Katakurunde Jnananda, from his book, I think, I cannot remember the title of the book. He clearly says that, of course, we see that from the discourses as well, like Mahachattarīsaka and other suttas, that each factor of the Noble Eightfold Path support each other. So that we can see that Sila is a Sangvara, and from wisdom you again Sangvara. From Samadhi you gain Sangvara too. So that the Samma Vaca and Samma Kammanta and Samma Ajiva are well supported by both ends. Just like Paticcasamuppada formula, between two links there is a reciprocal relationship. Avidya arises due to Sankara, and Sankara again help Avidya to sustain itself. So likewise, Panya, Sile Patitta Narosa Panya, the one who has kind of understanding practice Sila, sustain on Sila. So that likewise, Panya come into play in a different title to support Sila to be like that, and that Sila, that Sangvara, help Panya to be like Samma Jnana and Samma Vimukti, to release us from this state to another. So yeah, I wanted to show something additions to what you said. I agree with all of your points.
Yeah, Bante, also the Mahachattarīsaka talk about the three supporting each of these factors, the three supporting Samadhi, Samma Vayama and Samma Sati, like running around in circles. Like I think it's the same as Atapi Sampajano Satima. So they're running around in circles, like each factor is of the 10 factors of the tenfold. India has a question, right?
No, okay. What I just wanted to know is, Visakha, was he still Anagami when he asked all these questions from?
Yes. Visakha actually attained to Anagami on that day that Dhammadinna and Visakha had the conversation at night. Yes. So he actually attained to Anagami state while he was listening to the Dhamma.
Buddha. Yes. Patiga and Kamaraga, all that.
All the five fetters were gone from his mind. So that he was an Anagami. Actually, then being a husband, I would say, he's still for Dhammadinna, still her husband. So first he got into Anagami state, then only Dhammadinna became a bhikkhu.
Ordained. Yeah. No, I told him even those days, husbands wanted to make sure they are. I mean, she's an arahat, but he had to ask all those questions to make sure.
In India those days, I guess it's called.
Yes.
It was there for bhikkhunis then.
Fortunately, they were both followers of the Buddha well before that, so that even Dhammadinna was a very intelligent woman. Being she was not a general average housewife, or she was a follower of the Buddha for a certain period of time, and she quickly noticed something has happened to the understanding of Visakha, of his mind. That's why with some assumption in her mind, she asked those questions.
Yes.
So she was very intelligent to put the
Pick the-
question,
Yeah.
can I ordain?
Yes.
Yeah. So,
So
if
the-
you see something strange from Dr. Pial at some point of his life, so you would be following Bhikkhuni Dhammadinna's path.
and she'll overtake. I mean, she overtook. In other words, Visakha at the end,
Yeah.
right? When they met, I think.
Women always do.
Okay.
Yeah, there's no rest. But anyway, thank you, Bante.
Thank you.
You're
Bye.
welcome. You're welcome. All right, we can see Sister Chandrani has raised her hand. She might be having something in her mind, and we'll see what Sister Chandrani has to say.
Okay, Venerable Sir.
Yes.
It is this eightfold path, the order. Actually, we study first the Panya, then we study Sila and Samadhi. We study in different ways, but actually when it is happening in Supramanden level, first the Panya comes. That's why we gain Udevaya, Banga, all these wisdom levels arise first. And then comes the Samadhi level, an extreme Samadhi level for Nibbana. So I think in practice it is different. In learning it is different. That is my...
Yeah, it's a very good point too. Actually, when we study the Noble Eightfold Path for knowing the numbers and the names, and it's called Uggaha Patipada. So when we study the Noble Eightfold Path for the first time, for gaining knowledge about it, so we study from Sila, Samadhi and Panya. But when it comes to practical level, the things happen in such a way, there should be a sense of Panya. That's why Yoniso Manasikara and Sati Sampajanya and Samadhi are the factors of Dhamma that one should have in mind. If you look at the first four factors of Sotapanna, so you see this, because I remember this statement now, Sammaditi Purejava. That Pura is not a kind of city we talk about in the sense of normal setting. That Pura is Nivan Pura. The Sammaditi Purejavan, the one who is taken into, this is the way. Sammaditi Purejavan. If we want to send somebody into Nirvana, we should have the requisite of Sammaditi. Sammaditi Purejavang. In other words, one has to have Sammaditi in order to enter into the order of a noble Sangha. So by every means, we see that when we practice the Noble Eightfold Path, in the practical sense, yes, this order should go Samadhi, Panya, and then Sila, and Samadhi. But when we study it, we study with Sila, Samadhi, Panya. And I think if you really understand why I study the Noble Eightfold Path as the path to cessation of suffering, by every means you catch it. Right? Because your idea is to end the sources or causes of suffering and the suffering itself, so that you are, with that idea in mind, you have sense of knowledge, some sense of Panya in mind, because you do it for a purpose. Exactly. You see the danger of existence with craving, attachment, so that you have suffering. So in order for you to alleviate that suffering and unpleasant experience, you stick to these principles, so that it decided by wisdom. Exactly. Decided a part of wisdom. So that has been very clear. Very nice point too.
Thank you, Venerable Sir. Thiruvan Saranai.
Wish you the same. Anyone other than these two friend of us, would like to say something about this discussion so far? Please read the Cula Vedalla Sutta slowly. And we in the tradition speak about this sometime. With some suttas, we need to read first reading, second reading, third reading, maybe fourth reading, maybe fifth reading. First reading just to get the points of Dhamma in the sutta into our mind. If that does not happen, we can do it with the second reading. With the second reading, depending on your skill, you read for details. You in the first reading, you catch the main point, and then you develop the knowledge around the points in the second reading, and put the sutta away for several days or several hours and meditate on it. Keep vibrating those knowledge of Dhamma in the sutta over and over with a meditative mind. Go to your chair or the place where you find comfort very much and think about how the sutta start, which fact is there first, and how perhaps you forget some into a certain extent. When you go on the way of reflecting, you forget. But anyway, whatever comes to your mind, reflect, meditate on. Then when you read it for the third time, you have something in your mind at the very beginning. So you can read it by knowing how your mind reacts to the Dhamma in the sutta. And you, of course, connect it with other Dhammas. And when you go to the fourth and fifth reading, you are really good with it. So we can show some suttas that you need to read like that, like this sutta, Sammaditthi Sutta, Sabbasa Sutta, any sutta that gives you interesting, very important Dhamma, read in such a way. So that is what I wanted to share with you at last. It is now 9:10 p.m. here. So we just want to finish today's sutta discussion. We are going to take the next couple of important Dhamma factors in the sutta next week. If possible, we will finish the sutta next week, or not. If not, we can carry on the sutta discussion for another week. So our effort is to have some Dhamma session, Dhammiva Katha, based on the Buddha's advice. Constant discussion on Dhamma we already know help us clear our mind from hindrances. Not only the meditation with subject does that for us, even this kind of sutta discussion help us doing it. And when you do it in the Dhamma discussion, you will have not only one tool to let go of hindrances, you have many tools. So this is why we conduct weekly sutta discussion. So I think you all engage with the sutta discussion with wholesome mind, and I wish may you be able to let go of Sakkaya Ditthi completely, and make sure that you are a Sotapanna soon, and if possible, may be able to achieve other spiritual goals in the teaching, as teaching says, in this very life. With this wholesome thought in mind, I bless each and everyone by saying Sadhu, Sadhu, Sadhu.
Sadhu.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.